It seems that Mater Dei High School and USC has a great connection, especially when it comes to the quarterback position. You've had a couple of big names, including Matt Leinart, Matt Barkley, and most recently, JT Daniels. All three of those guys had ridiculous amounts of hype coming out of high school, and while Leinart and Barkley were substantially better than JT Daniels was, all three are big deals, and many times the next great USC quarterback might be found at Mater Dei High School. Many thought this was the case just over a decade ago. After Matt Barkley had left for the NFL, the next guy in line was Max Wittek. He was a huge recruit, was at one point considered a 5-star prospect, and was honestly the next great USC quarterback. Unfortunately, Wittek would flame out, would transfer away, and never lived up to all that potential he had. In today's video, I want to talk about what happened to Max Wittek. We're to go through his insane rise, why he was USC's next great quarterback, and what ultimately would happen to him. But before we get started, be sure to leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new and love college football content, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I could cover in my next one. Now let's get started and talk about what happened to Max Wittek. So going back in time, Wittek was born in California, but they would move to Norwalk, Connecticut when he was only 6 months old. He grew up in the city playing Pop Warner football and played with NFL players such as Kevin Pierre-Louis and Silas Redd. Following middle school, Max's family would move back to California and they would play for a very prestigious school. While some players would definitely shy away from this kind of spotlight, Wittek was ready for the lofty expectations as he would go to Mater Dei High School and was anointed as the next big thing. The cast of quarterbacks that had recently played at Mater Dei had included Matt Leinart, Colt Brennan, and Matt Barkley. Those three are ridiculous names to live up to, and he was groomed to be the next great quarterback for them. He worked with Steve Clarkson, the same guy who coached both Leinart and Barkley. Despite having the talent, the quarterbacks in front of them would actually help him develop. Wittek said this about Barkley, quote, "Our relationship has grown from Mater Dei when I was kind of young and didn't have much of a football IQ. There, he was more of a teacher to me. He was like a mentor, teaching me things along with the offensive coordinator, Dave Money. Everything was lining up for Max to be the next big thing, but he'd only get 2 years to play and showcase his skills, and this was a big deal to him." He said, quote, "In the beginning, I didn't think much about being the starting quarterback at Mater Dei. Then it hit me. I realized how big of an honor it is. It's amazing when you think about all the tradition and all of the great players who have played there." When he took over his junior year, he passed for 2,126 yards with 15 touchdowns. He started to become a national name and gained a ton of big-time offers. But he'd have one more rodeo. How did he do in his final year? Well, he threw for 2,252 yards with 24 touchdowns and an abnormally high 15 interceptions. He did put up better numbers as a senior, but those turnovers were a problem, but it didn't shy teams away from offering him. He ended up getting offers from schools such as UCLA, Notre Dame, Florida, Florida State, Georgia, Nebraska, and USC. But one school is king when it comes to Mater Dei, and that is USC. Apparently, USC was so enamored with what they had seen from him that they put a scholarship offer on the table, and if he was going to be anything like Leinart or Barkley, then he'd become someone USC had to get. Apparently, he was actually somewhat like those two. His trainer said, quote, "There's been times when I've had Max out on the field with Leinart and Barkley, with all of them throwing the ball together, and it was a super competitive practice session. Luckily for USC, it would not be tough to get Wittek on board, and he committed to the Trojans rather quickly. It did seem, though, he was considering other options. He almost went to North Carolina, and reflected on what if he would have went to Florida or Georgia. Rumors had swirled that he had both silently committed to the Gators and to the UCLA Bruins, but Wittek would dispel them, saying, quote, "I went down to Florida and talked to them, but there was never any commitment. I actually never considered UCLA, and I was only there once for one thing, and I'm not even sure what it was. But I really didn't think about them that much. Honestly, whether he wanted to or not, he was probably always going to be going to USC. This was a huge get for Lane Kiffin, and he said, quote, "I'm going to USC. I had a checklist of things I wanted in a program, and everything else had a few of them, but every time I thought about it, it'd come back to USC, and that was the school I was always thinking about." Despite being a big deal, he had a low-key commitment ceremony, as he didn't really want to pick a hat on TV, and just wanted to get it over with. Wittek had flown up recruiting boards, and his teammate wide receiver Victor Blackwell was also a top 100 player who would join him at USC. Everything was going well for Max, and he was next in line, but was he the real deal, or was it all just hype? Well, one scout said, quote, "He's a prototype pro-style quarterback. He's probably more comparable to Carson Palmer with a big arm and the size. He's already 240 pounds and 6'4". According to 24/7 Sports, Wittek was a 4-star recruit, the number 2 pro-style quarterback, and the 87th best player in the class of 2011. His QB coach was certain Max would play on Sundays one day, but would it end up happening? Ironically, USC would take 2 quarterbacks in the class of 2011, and the other guy was Cody Kessler. Everyone was talking about Wittek though, and with Barkley being on the roster as well, many thought that Max was just next up. Wittek said, quote, "Barkley and I spent so much time together at Mater Dei, watching films and at practices and at games. I see him a lot when I go to USC and work out with him every once in a while. We call and text all the time, and it's going to be great to play together again." In 2012, Wittek would see the field for the first time, as in October against Colorado, he'd throw for his first career touchdown. Obviously, he was the backup, but he'd be thrown into a crazy difficult spot at the end of the season. After Matt Barkley would injure his shoulder, Wittek would have to take over. He was scheduled to make his first career start against number 1 Notre Dame, and Wittek may have set the bar way too high before the game. He said, quote, "I'm going to go out there and I'm going to play within myself, within the system, and we're going to win this ball game." How did it end up going? Well, Notre Dame would beat USC 22-13, go to the national championship, and Wittek would throw for 186 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. While the bar was probably way too high, his confidence both helped and killed him, and now many were viewing him as a bust. They were also probably mad at the Barkley injury and mad at missing the national championship. In their bowl game, he wouldn't help the narrative either, as against Georgia Tech, they lost 21-7, and he barely threw for 100 yards with 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions. The next great USC quarterback was now already an afterthought. Going into 2013, he'd battle it out with his fellow signee Cody Kessler, and eventually Wittek would lose the competition by the second week of the year. Wittek would end up having a disappointing season, as he'd appear in 5 games in mop-up duty, throwing for 1 interception and running for 1 touchdown. In 2 years, Wittek had more interceptions than touchdowns and had not won a game as a starter. Going into 2014, Coach Sark said that there would be an open quarterback battle, but everyone knew that wasn't going to happen, and Wittek eventually decided he was going to transfer from USC. When it came to the transfer portal, it actually seemed that Texas was where he was going to go at first, but then things shifted. Apparently Texas backed away from it, and for undisclosed reasons, took away the scholarship offer they had for him. Apparently Texas backed off because it came to light that he wasn't going to receive his degree from USC, and he'd only have 1 year of eligibility left wherever he transferred. It just didn't make sense numbers-wise. Some wondered if he'd go back home to UConn, some thought he could stay local at Fresno State, or maybe he'd go to Louisville, but he did neither. He decided to go play football in Paradise, and committed to play for the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, following in the footsteps of Colt Brennan. Sadly, it didn't go great for him either there, as his tenure with the Rainbow Warriors was rocky and honestly unbelievably disappointing. He would win his first career start against Colorado, as he threw for 200 yards with 3 touchdowns and 2 picks, but it was rough sledding from there. His only win came against UC Davis, and he lost to Ohio State, Wisconsin, Boise State, San Diego State, Nevada, Air Force, and Fresno. In all those games, he was pretty much abysmal, as he threw for 7 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. He ended up leading his team to a 2-7 record, and I'm honestly shocked he lasted that long. This was Wittek's final year of eligibility, and he said, quote, "I always wonder what it would have been like if I went to North Carolina instead of USC. Would things have worked out?" That's a question none of us can really answer, but somehow, some way, and because of some bit of untapped potential, he'd actually get a chance with the Jacksonville Jaguars in the NFL. He said, quote, "Honestly, it's pretty surreal. I've been thinking about it for as long as I can remember, and for all that hard work and for all the sacrifices for it to accumulate and reach this point, it's pretty special." He was signed in May of 2016 to the Jaguars roster, and then was cut on August 23rd of 2016. His short, brief tenure in professional football was now over, and from there, he would not step foot on another football field. I tried looking around, but I can't figure out what he's up to anymore. But hopefully, he's doing well, and hopefully, he has found success in whatever he's doing. Unfortunately, many USC fans and college football fans will remember him as somewhat disappointing, but that's just how it goes in the quarterback world. When you go to Mater Dei, when you're a top 100 recruit, and when you follow in the footsteps of Matt Barkley, you're going to get all that hype, and there's a few reasons why I think he flamed out. One, I honestly think he was a little bit overrated coming out of high school. I think everybody wanted him to be the next big thing, and maybe he wasn't all the way there. He struggled with turnovers in high school, his numbers really weren't that great, and that in my opinion meant he was a little bit overrated. 2, his growth was stunted. When your first career start comes against number 1 Notre Dame with a national championship appearance on the line, it's pretty hard. He didn't end up playing very well, the fan base sort of turned on him, and his confidence was sort of crushed. That bowl game against Georgia Tech didn't help either, and that disastrous end of the season led to him falling behind Cody Kessler. Obviously, he could never stop turning the ball over either, and then also apparently while he was at Hawaii, he had some sort of knee condition, and I'm not sure how much of an effect that had on anything, but I'm sure it didn't help either. All in all, Max Wittek was supposed to be the next great USC quarterback, and it just didn't end up working out for him. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you're a USC fan, let me know down below why you think he didn't pan out. Let me know another quarterback or big-time recruit I could cover next. And also, before you go, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.